What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot of new updates to talk about in the next 24 hours. We have a lot of new updates that have happened in the last 24 hours, and we started covering it on the live stream last night. By the way, thank you for all the support on the live stream. It has a lot of likes, has over 2,000 views. It was a really big success, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. I do apologize for the kind of abrupt ending at the end of it. I had to go help my family do some stuff as well as eat dinner, so I had to cut it short. But next time we stream, it's not going to be like that. We're going to go for the full hour, and I'm going to have Weather Center Nazario and David Schlotthauer hopefully next time. Most likely Weather Center Nazario. I know David's pretty busy with his stuff, but overall, really a big success. I really appreciate you guys coming out and watching last night. Really meant a lot to me. But with all that rambling aside, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the main meat of this video, because I think we have a lot of new data that has come in and I want to show with you guys, as well as the 12Z European that has come in through Pivotal Weather. And the reason I want to show you all this is because we've seen a massive uptrend in the models in the last 48 hours. Hell, we've seen an uptrend over the last 5 days, but it's really been pronounced over the last 48 hours. Let's go ahead and get this party started right here. This is Invest 94L. Overall, I'm not too concerned about this developing. Main risk is flooding and all that. We covered that on the live stream last night. But we can go ahead and briefly go over this. It's moving at 25 miles per hour. Environmental conditions could be more conducive in a couple of days as it approaches the southwestern Gulf and into the Western Caribbean Sea. Formation chance is only 20%. I'm not too concerned about that right here. But this is what I am concerned about right here, because this looks like your typical classic Lesser Antilles setup right here that starts in late June or early July, ladies and gentlemen. And this does have the possibility of becoming a hurricane down the road. And I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. I am literally saying this because there are several computer models that are analyzing this and going, oh, we got to pay attention to this right here. So that's what we have going on right here with this area of interest right here. We've seen the chances really start to ramp up over the last 12 to 18 hours. So here's the situation. A tropical wave located a few hundred miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Some development is possible over the next several days, and a tropical depression could form over the tropical Atlantic by the end of the week or this weekend while the system moves westward at 15 to 20 miles per hour. Current formation chance is 40% in the next 7 days. That was at 20% when we were doing the stream, and formation chance in the next 48 hours is at 10%. It was at 0 when we were streaming last night. So just giving you an overall overview of what we're looking at as of right now. If we go ahead and show you the satellite imagery across this tropical wave right here, yeah, it's producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms right now, but it is expected to organize and develop further. I want to go ahead and take a look at the dry air just while we're here, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're potentially looking at. What we're seeing with this right here is the Sahara air layer. It's to the north of the tropical wave, and that would typically suppress a lot of tropical development, but that Sahara air layer is expected to start lifting up and push further to the north and allow for this tropical system to develop as it gets closer to the Lesser Antilles right here. And the reason I'm getting this out of the way first is because we're going to look at the global sea temperatures and the wind shear as well, just to kind of give you the overall conditions and the overall vibes that this system has right here in the main development region, because typically you don't see this level of intensity forecasted this early out unless it's like the GFS and it's 300 hours out. But we're seeing multiple model runs calling for this thing to really ramp up and develop. And the vorticity especially has been off the charts for this thing as it approaches the Lesser Antilles, but we'll get to that in just a second. Overall, the moist air is expected to kind of start to fill in, and kind of allow for this thing to have a healthier environment to organize and develop as we go into here. It's also going to be in a healthy area of global sea temperatures, 28 plus degrees Celsius or 82 plus degree Fahrenheit across the main development region as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. So overall, what we are going to be seeing is just very piping hot waters. These are the warmest waters in the MDR we have seen. It's been very consistently around 28 degrees Celsius this whole last few months right here, and it is expected to continue to remain that and even get even warmer as we continue to get deeper into the hurricane season. It is June 26th right now, and we're already at such a hot temperature, and we're already seeing these 30+ degrees Celsius temperatures coming back across much of the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, parts of the Atlantic Basin, even off the coast of the Bahamas. So we're going to have to pay very close attention to all of that, especially as this trajectory moves it into the Caribbean Sea, potentially into a lot of ocean heat content. And this is what we're looking at right here. If this system does, according to what the models are looking at, move into the Caribbean Sea after the Antilles, it's going to be moving through a ton of ocean heat content right here. So where it's at right now, it's in an area of, I'd say, about 50 to 75 OHC, which already for the main development region is very scary to look at. Matter of fact, let's do a quick comparison and go to June of 2023. Let's go to June 26th, 2023 to compare and contrast right here. Let's go ahead and go to June 26th. This is what we had right here. We did not have OHC just as rampant and as far to the north as what we were seeing with this right here. We saw localized areas of up to potentially 75, up to 100 most across a lot of the main development region. Bulk of it was still in the Caribbean Sea. Now, as we continue to take a look at this is in 2024, we're seeing a lot of more areas, a lot more of a concentrated area across the main development region of 75 to 100 OHC, especially in the western half of the main development region as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. Once we get into the Caribbean, the OHC is absolutely a nightmare. We're seeing up to 150, cracking 175 OHC across a couple of areas right there. Yeah, this is going to be fuel for these tropical systems to develop, and how ocean heat content works, as I've been saying like a broken record. It's essentially a measurement of how hot the water is and how deep down it goes. So that's essentially the layman's terms explanation of it. It's a lot of dynamics and a lot of calculus. I'm not going to get into that part of it. Also, what I'm going to get into, though, is the wind shear. Wind shear doesn't look that impressive right now, but it is forecast to weaken across much of the main development region and across the Caribbean Sea, and we will show you that in just a second, because this is what we're seeing across the Caribbean. We're seeing 30 to 40 knots of wind shear where Invest 94L is. Personally, that's why I don't think it's going to develop. There's too much wind shear in the area, and I'm not overly that concerned about that. I can understand why the NHC is tagging it, and I can understand why you should watch it, but overall, I'm not too concerned outside the flooding threat, which we already covered. But where I am concerned about is all this wind shear just fluctuating, and we're going to start seeing a low period of wind shear across much of the region starting in the next few days or so. So we're going to have to pay attention to that. One other thing I am paying attention to is the Madden-Julian oscillation, or the MJO for short. What I'm noticing with the MJO is it's starting to get out of its weaker phase and move into the Western Hemisphere and Africa region right here, which is what you want if you want higher tropical activity in the Atlantic Ocean right there. It's starting to push out of it and start breaking out of it right here and right now. So overall, this is definitely something you need to pay attention to. What the MJO does is it allows for more convection, and it allows for a better environment for these tropical systems to develop. Although it doesn't really take into account dry air and wind shear and all that stuff, it just allows for more convection to fire up. And I think that's what we're starting to see right now, is we're starting to see a more favorable MJO situation that we have going on right here and right now. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and show you the shear forecast and the moisture forecast. We're going to use the European model for that, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're potentially going to be looking at. We're going to start with the 200 to 850 millibar wind shear. We're going to start with that right here and right now. Let's go ahead and go out to about 48 hours just to get a gauge of what we're potentially looking at. As you can see, we're starting to see a lot of the wind shear start to lift from the Caribbean Sea. It starts to weaken a little bit, but overall, the process is just starting. It's going to take a few days or so for that to happen, but you do start to see this ridge push further to the north and allow for lower wind shear values across much of the main development region. And as the system starts to take off, according to some of the models that we have seen. It's going to be pretty interesting. Caribbean Sea is going to fluctuate off and on, off and on, off and on. There is going to be a bit of wind shear that does persist around it, but overall, it's going to be a generally favorable environment for a lot of these regions right here. Matter of fact, if we go ahead and show you the GFS, I want to go ahead and show you the 12Z GFS shear forecast right here, just to give you an idea of what we can cross-check. Yeah, GFS is seeing the same stuff right there, although they are starting to see a bit weaker wind shear across much of the Caribbean Sea, although as it gets into the central Caribbean, wind shear does start to tear it apart and all that stuff, so we're going to have to pay attention to all of that right then and right there. Now let's go ahead and go back to the European and go to the moisture forecast, because this is the 700 to 300 relative humidity. Yeah, you can see that there's that Sahara air layer right there. That's kind of keeping it tropical development at the down low as of right now, but in the next few days or so, you're going to see that push and stay a little bit further to the north, and this tropical system stays in a pretty robust moisture pocket as it approaches the Lesser Antilles and starts to make some noise and start to develop as it gets there, and then we'll have to see what happens after that. I'm not really going to look at anything like with the operational models outside of what we're seeing with the Lesser Antilles, because it's too uncertainty. I mean, I will look at it, but I'm going to take it with a massive grain of salt, mainly because of just how far out it is, and it's something that just, I'm just a little bit perplexed with after we get past the Antilles. So without further ado, let's go ahead and show you some of the something real quickly. I actually want to go ahead and pull up a tweet for you guys just to kind of show you what kind of environment this thing is going to be going into. Here's what Eric Webb posted on Twitter. By late June, early July standards, the overall environment looks unusually conducive for tropical development over the east-central main development region next week. A few easterly waves will get tangled up with a pair of convectively coupled Kelvin waves, favoring much lower than average wind shear, a generally divergent upper-level environment, and a high deep layer moisture all superposed onto an exceptionally warm tropical Atlantic. Recent bullish trends in the numerical weather prediction models are likely real and a response to the leading ascent in the phase of the CCKW approaching the tropical Atlantic. This kind of the graphics he is showing right there, showing those Kelvin waves right there, showing the wind shear just being a lot lower than average right now. This is the European EPS right here. Showing that, potentially down to like 15 knots below average, which is pretty scary to take a look at. Moisture is definitely a lot larger, more than average across a lot of the regions right there. Then you see these ensembles really starting to flare up and really start to organize and develop. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and show you the Weather Nerds ensemble. We're going to show you both the 0Z and the 12Z just to kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be potentially looking at right here. This goes out to 240 hours out, so that's perfect. Let's go ahead and move the screen over a little bit to give you the optimal viewing point right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's the situation that we have according to this. Let's go ahead and start with going back to about 6 days out. Right here, we have a huge concentration of scenarios having this thing impacting the Lesser Antilles. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this right here. We are seeing a huge concentration of computer models of all sorts of intensities really starting to ramp up and allow and potentially cause this. We're seeing things range from like your average classic tropical storms to potentially some pretty major hurricanes. Like here's a 959 millibar system over here in the Windward Islands. That's pretty crazy right there. We're seeing a couple of lower 970s, upper 960s near Guadalupe and Dominica right there. That's something really concerning to take a look at right now, because we're now starting to see this massive uptrend in the ensembles. Like they're clearly showing something that a lot of the operational models were taking a while to catch up on. So we'll have to pay attention to that, and we'll get to that in just a second. Let's go ahead and zoom out on this and go ahead and show you what the GFS ensembles are showing you in comparison right here. Let's go ahead and do this similar situation right here. Let's go ahead and do that and kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. GFS for the 0Z kind of had it as a weaker system, around like a strong tropical storm strength on average, according to a lot of these ensembles at the 0Z. 12Z, though, really started to ramp up, and we're going to go ahead and update you with this right here. This is the 12Z that we have. Typical, like, strong tropical storms, maybe like 50, 60, maybe up to 70 miles per hour mile per hour winds with all these systems, but overall, that's what the GFS is showing, this thing impacting Lesser Antilles. And depending on what it does in the Caribbean, it could potentially strengthen even further, according to some computer models, as it starts tapping into that massive ocean heat content, as it starts tapping into the lower wind shear that'll allow for it to strengthen. We can go ahead and go about 10 days out, just to kind of give you a general idea of what we're potentially looking at. GFS has that split in the models long term, has some of them going out to sea after impacting Hispaniola and Cuba. Others have it going into Central America. At this point, it's too far out to really pay much attention to. Now let's go ahead and show you the European 12Z right here. This is what we have for the 12Z. The European's 12Z really has stepped it up a notch. Like, really ramped it up. And as we'll see with the operational in just a second, yeah, the operational clearly has caught up with that. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this real quickly for you guys. We're seeing still a lot of those operational models and a lot of those forecasts right there. Let's go ahead and it's the 12Z. My apologies. Here's the 12Z. Yeah, we're still seeing a lot of those that split in the models right there. We're still seeing a lot of those forecasts right there, really concentrated to just across the board with the only thing that's really just kind of off the cuff and just all over the place is the intensity, which is something I am paying attention to, as we're going to go ahead and show you the operational models right now. Let's go ahead and start with the European. We're going to use the 12Z European because things are getting pretty interesting, if you ask me. Let's go ahead and move this over just to give you a better viewing point. So here's what we have with the European model. This is the 12Z coming out from Pivotal Weather. Tropical Tidbits doesn't have it out just yet, which is why I'm not using that website for right now, but I will be using that for the GFS and the CMC, because those are the three models that are saying, hey, this thing is really going to ramp up and intensify. So this is what we have with the European. This is what we have. Let's go ahead and go out to about 5 days out just to kind of see what's going on. 5 days out, you start to see what I'm seeing right here. See a strong tropical storm to weak hurricane approaching the Lesser Antilles, making landfall maybe in the Windward Islands, and then moving into the Caribbean. But what the European wants to do is has this strengthen in the Central Caribbean, really ramp up in intensity. We're down to 977 7 days out. 6 days out, we were at 990. 192 hours, we're down to 966. 9 days out, 945 millibars. And this is in the northwestern Caribbean right here, which is where the absolute best ocean heat content is for this kind of intensification. Keep in mind, this is 9 days out. You guys need to take this with a grain of salt. I'll keep you updated on it, but keep in mind, it's 9 days out and it's just one model run. But with the GFS and the Canadian over here, let's go ahead and pull those up right here. Here's the 12Z GFS right here. We're going to quickly go over this. Right here, 12Z GFS has this thing really ramping up, rapidly organizing as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. 993 millibar, strong tropical storm or weak hurricane. As it then enters the Caribbean Sea, dies off. The GFS also wants another tropical system to organize right afterward. Similar intensity right there, which is pretty interesting to take a look at. Let's go ahead and show you what the CMC is thinking with this right here. CMC, one big system right here, really ramping up. Wants this thing to make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane and then move into the Caribbean right there and potentially be a threat for some of the Antilles before curving into Central America over there. So overall, that's the big situation I am paying attention to. I know this is a bit of a longer video than some of the other videos have been, but I wanted to give you all the context and all the materials you'll need just to kind of make your own opinions and just for you to watch this system right here. And I will absolutely keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel, because this is turning into a very serious situation I want you all to keep an eye on. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. And if you want to come hang out with us at Storms United or see the behind the scenes of how these videos happen, be sure to join our Discord server. Link to that is right over there. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.